Greetings! It is All Hallows Eve, yes, the spookiest day of the year, and what the better place to spend your spooky season than inside the Last Video Store. Of course, we've got a horror section full of horror movies. My name is Alexi Toliopoulos, and I am the host of this show where we talk to interesting people about their favourite movies. And on the show this week, we are celebrating the release of, I think, one of the best Australian horror films of recent times, and we are in a freaking beautiful new wave of Australian horror, and this to me is one of the great examples, a pinnacle, a diamond of this wave, if you will. Waves don't normally have diamonds, but this wave has a diamond, and its name is The Moogai. The Moogai is the new film from Jon Bell, starring Shari Sebbins and Meyne Wyatt, and here is what I'll tell you about it. A young Aboriginal couple brings home their second baby. What should be a joyous time takes a sinister turn. As the baby's mother starts seeing a malevolent spirit she's convinced is trying to take her baby. Beautiful film. It does that thing that I love so much that horror films, if they land, that's what I love about them. It's a metaphor that is a metaphor for us in the audience, and that's a metaphor about stolen generation, about displacement, about motherhood, all of these great things, but then it's literalized in the film. The people in the film, there's stakes attached to every moment. It's scary, it's freaky. I love The Moogai, and I'm so happy to have the director and writer Jon Bell on the show, and also the actor, star, multidisciplinary artist, if you will, Meyne Wyatt is joining us on the show as well today. So let us get into our chat about The Moogai. But before we do that, if you want a bespoke customized recommendation based on your taste, just like I'm going to give these guys on the show, all you need to do is give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, comment on YouTube, on our Instagram, at Last Video Store Batuta, anything like that. With your new release, 2 weekly picks, I'll give you a recommendation. And this week, we got our beautiful producer, Emmeline, in here, who has just been to cinema, and you're going to recommend me a movie that I haven't seen yet.
Yes, and it just comes out today, so not many people have seen it. Guess I'm special.
You're special. I didn't see it. You're specialer than I am.
I am very special.
Wow, and you're admitting it.
I am.
You're admitting it.
I went to the cinema to see Saturday Night, which has got a ton of hype at the moment.
It's got a lot of hype, dude. A lot of hype. I'm privy to the hype.
Yeah.
I'm seeing the hype. I'm feeling the hype.
It's about the first taping of Saturday Night Live.
And I'm a big Saturday Night Live guy, obviously.
Me too.
Of course. I mean, let it be known, Emmeline had a podcast about Adam Sandler.
Oh, yeah,
Star of Saturday Night Live. I had a podcast about Mike Myers, star of Saturday Night Live.
We really do love Saturday Night Live.
We really do. So as a Saturday Night Live fan, how did it go for you? Did you feel the hype? Did you feel the bristle?
Yeah, I really liked it. I mean, I'm often swayed by seeing stuff in the cinema. I often come out and I'm like, that was the best film I've ever seen. And I'm just kind of blown away by seeing things on a big screen. But it was really, really, really good. It kind of was interesting because it was set in the 90 minutes leading up to the first broadcast. So it was almost in real time, which was a really interesting way. I love a movie set over one day or one night. That's like my favorite kind of movie.
Wow, okay, me too. I love like that One Crazy Night vibe, like something I really dig.
But guess who stole the movie for me?
Wow, I pray it was Rachel Sennett. Is that who I'm going to guess?
It was Paul Rust.
Your fave? Oh my God. Who's Paul Rust playing in this?
He's playing Paul Schaefer in a bald wig and a big fake nose.
That's perfect.
It was incredible. He only had maybe like 1.5 lines, but I absolutely loved his role in it. I just love Paul Rust. But yeah, you should check it out if you're a fan of SNL or movies set over one night.
Wow, well, I'm a fan of both of those things. So finally, a recommendation for me on this show.
Finally, a movie that I've seen and you haven't.
I know. I have yet to see it. I've squandered all opportunity to see Saturday Night, but I shall see it, and I won't tell you what day of the week I'm going to watch this. It's going to be a secret. But Emmeline, thank you so much for freaking doing the Lord's work of reviewing a movie on the podcast.
I hope I did it up to scratch.
Well, let's just say you've been knighted. You're now a soldier of cinema.
Oh yeah, thanks, Alexi.
Well, we're going to get into our chat about The Moogai and a few weekly choices as well with Meyne Wyatt and Jon Bell on the show right now.
The Last Video Store.
Well, Jon and Meyne, thank you for making that tremendous journey to get here to the last video store here in Batuta. I know it's a hard journey, but I appreciate you guys making your way here.
No worries, thanks for having us.
Oh, thanks. I'm a video man, like the cassettes. Yes.
Yeah, you love the cassettes.
Yeah.
Are you soaking into the nostalgia right now?
Well, I mean, you got all the VHS, you got VHS, and you got DVD, but where's the Betamax?
Betamax is even hard to come by. When we've got every single movie on their shelves, very few of them are on Betamax. Very, very few of them. Did you have a Betamax?
No, I didn't, but there was always that one little...
Slightly smaller case. Slightly smaller case. My uncle was a big Betamax guy.
Nice.
Oh, right.
And you better believe he was pissed off for the rest of his life when it lost the battle.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any video store memories? Anything that you remember? Any favorite little selections you picked up back in the day?
No, I think I was able to convince my dad when I was about 8 or 9 to hire Desperado.
The Robert Rodriguez classic?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
It was and because it was R18.
It's a hectic R18 for an 8-year-old
I was like, Dad,
as
I'll just fast forward through all the sex scenes. It'll be fine. And he was like, I don't know about this because he's worrying about like my mum giving him a bollocking when he gets home. But he was I think I was able to convince him, and I was like, no, look away. Yeah, so that was one of my little coups as a kid. So.
Man, I'll say that sex scene in Desperado, there's stuff and shots in it where still to this day, I'm like, I've got no idea what part of the human body that is. There's stuff going on in there that is out of my realm still.
Yeah. It's an intense film too.
And it's all just Carlos Santana
Oh, yeah.
guitar across it, which gives it a whole nother level.
That beautiful guitar. Everything's so romantic and beautiful. And Antonio Banderas whipping fucking bullets around corners and
that
shit.
was the sick bit.
That's the cool shit, man. That's the cool stuff. Even still, when I was 8 watching it too, I'm like, yeah, sex, whatever. I like seeing bullets fly around corners. That's the cool stuff.
Yeah, and it was a ridiculous watch, but
He
fun.
was so cool for me that there was a period where I grew my hair long and kept it in a ponytail.
You were a
I was,
ponytail
guy?
I was skin and bone at that point. But I thought, oh man, Antonio Banderas. That's the look. So,
You got to bring that ponytail back, man.
This has to be at the end. You have to get those photos up at the end.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. I'll be honest. I was a ponytail guy for a while too.
nice.
We're all admitting stuff on this podcast today.
So I don't have an admission of a ponytail.
Wow.
I don't even have a ratty.
Oh, no, come on, that's the next step. At the end of this, we're all growing them back. You're getting the ratty. You got to get a ratty for the first time, though.
I had a ratty probably up till like 5 years ago. Yeah,
All right, that's it. I remember I cut my ponytail off because I was sitting on a train and the guy next to me also had a ponytail. And all I could think about was everyone behind us going like, oh, these two guys must know each other. And I was like, I can't live like this anymore.
Nice.
Well, we're talking about like horror movies here a little bit today. I'm interested to know, what were like the first kind of horror movies that you guys, like that kind of breached that gap for you? Was there anything like that that kind of took your scary imagination?
Well, talking like Desperado, but in the 80s, the films were crazy in the 80s. Like the stuff that we saw, I remember my uncle, he was a big horror fan, and he got me into The Evil Dead when I was like 8.
Far out.
And it was hectic.
Yeah,
like,
it is hectic.
Yeah, it is hectic, even now.
Even
like,
now, man.
The pencil into the ankles, and when he's doing the card thing and she's looking out the window and then she just starts, Ace of Spades, King of Hearts, and she's doing all that there, that just stayed with me. But Evil Dead was probably the first really full-on horror film that just burned itself into my brain.
And it's all those like practical effects that for, especially like a young person, if like that is something that's so imaginative and so exciting.
Camera work, like Sam Raimi, just full-on going for it.
Yeah.
Hungry, young.
Hungry, that's such a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And Meyne, what about you, man?
Yeah, no, I think that I remember like when I was a kid, I was never allowed to watch it at home, but I'd go to my cousins' houses or my friends' houses.
That's
and
always
then,
the way.
Yeah, always.
Everyone's got a grubby cousin.
Yeah. But it was funny because like you watch Friday the 13th or you watch Child's Play or something like that. But there was actually Karachi Man, which was an Australian like film.
Yeah.
And because it was blackfellas,
Yeah.
like, that made it worse because I was like, actually, this could happen here. And I remember being about like 5 or 6 watching that.
Yeah.
And I think it scarred me for a very long time. Like I had nightmares for a very long time. And low budget, practical effects.
There's something about low budget where you just go, this is a little bit more real.
Well, no, because I think not only that, practical effects, because you know it's real.
Yeah.
When you watch something with CGI, you can suspend disbelief, you know. But it's the practical things that you're like, that's actually something graspable and tangible that you can actually touch. And I think that always freaked me out. And that film did for a long time scar me.
Far out, man. That's such a good point. I reckon let's get into your picks. I'm going to send you out into the store, wander around the store, pick up some films, some of your favorites, hand them over back to me, and we'll chat through them. And then it'll be upon me to give you a stuff pick recommendation based on your tastes. And I will be working very hard to get you something good. Okay? And if it's bad, I'll be punished.
Okay.
Right.
I don't know what the punishment is. Maybe I have to grow my ponytail back faster than planned. Maybe that's the punishment. But let's get into it.
New release.
All right, we've got a beautiful new release film that we're going to start with. This is one of my favorite films of the year. And I'm not just saying that because you guys are involved in it. Ask anyone, I'll say it. We're going to be talking about your new release film, The Moogai.
Horror.
Which is in our horror film section, of course. I think the way I love talking about like horror and genre films in particular is think about horror and genre as a language that communicates to an audience. And it's a way that they understand storytelling. It's a way that they kind of a language that they're really fluent in without being cognizant of it. I think Moogai is a great example of horror film that communicates that way. Can you talk about like what accessing an audience through that way or talking to an audience through your film?
Yeah, like in terms of the character journeys, you know, it's just there's something about horror that the desperation of the characters, they're literally fighting for. I mean, sometimes it's not even just their life, it's their afterlife or it's their, you know, beyond life or whatever. Like that desperation, I think, is something that horror fans look for. Yeah, sure, there might be interesting monsters, there might be interesting kills, there might be interesting things, elements in there, but it's the desperation of the characters. It's almost like the most primal sort of genre there is.
Yeah.
How is this person going to survive this?
Can you talk about as well, like, as horror as a means for like self-expression as well? Because I think that's not something that's so beautiful about this film.
Well, that's what makes it so personal. That's probably why it translates across cultures as well. Like, it's always interesting to see different cultural expressions of what people fear and why. And, you know, even now we sort of go and watch a film and then we might explore, you know, get online and explore the stories and behind the real life stories that inspire this stuff. But the cultural aspects of it, that's what makes it so translatable. Like one culture fears, you know, red, one culture fears blue, and seeing the other person, seeing the other culture's point of view, I don't know, it just expands yours in a way.
Wow, that's beautifully put. Meyne, as an artist, how does it feel to express yourself through that kind of genre as well?
Oh, look, I think this was the first opportunity to work in that genre film in my career up to date, and I think that was always an exciting thing to come on board with. And I think this film, what Jon's been able to do with the script, and then, you know, and weaving these themes throughout the film, and, you know, making a social commentary at the same time, but, you know, making it a thrilling, entertaining ride. I think that's, you know, I jumped at the opportunity. But, like, you know, and I think dealing with tension and dealing with drama in that way is, it's fun to play with. It was fun to be on set. It was, you know, I was talking this morning about, like, having a live baby instead of a prop running downstairs and doing things, and that. I think that was even heightened the fear in me. And
the stakes are much higher with the real baby.
For sure, and performing. So I think as much as, you know, putting the script up, it was just like it was a thrilling thing to do as an actor, you know, and on a tangible level. And
this film begins the journey with this film begins as a short film as well. The short film is one of my absolute favorite, like, horror shorts I've ever seen. So I was always so excited to see that you guys were all continuing with this story. Can you, like, kind of talk to me together about, like, how it developed or how it even evolved for both of you as a creative process from going from a short to then a full expanded feature film? Like, how did it grow for each of you?
I mean, I was doing the feature first. So instead of short and then expansion, the process was more feature than reduction.
Distilled down to short.
Yeah, distillation. Yeah. So I think that gave the short, in terms of the structure of it, it gave it more. A lot of short films are just, you know, set up and pay off.
Yeah.
But the Moogai short was 3 acts. So it gave it a more familiar feeling for the audience, even if they didn't necessarily know that process. They felt the 3 acts, and they felt, I don't know, they're more familiar with this
that
Hollywood structure.
Yeah. And I guess as well, they kind of like with that film, it's got so much like it does have the weight of a feature too, because it's like the world building is so strong. You know that there's more there. There's so much more there.
And it's. I mean, I advocate it as a process because the reduction. That's what gives it that flavor. Like you're colouring outside the lines so much more than you normally would. Even if when people go, oh well, if you're going to write something that's 15 minutes long, write something that's 30 pages and then reduce it. Nah, do the whole thing and then come back.
Did it help give you that clarity of vision as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and that was my whole point was to do something with 3 acts, and it probably paid off in terms of the South by Southwest win because Jason Blum was on the jury. And because he's so familiar with that style too, I think that probably resonated with him on some level.
Yeah, from Blumhouse, because like that is like that's so much like a pathway as well. That's so interesting. And Meyne, with you, like continuing your character and evolving the character from short to feature, how did that kind of grow with you?
Yeah, no, well, I think what you're saying about like going with the reduction, I almost feel like it's 2 different films, to be honest. And I think that was interesting going from one to the next. And I saw with this opportunity with the feature of expanding, particularly with Fergus, he's being able to dive into something that can go further, deeper, and then, more nuance to something. I think, a short doing the greatest hits,
Yeah.
Bang, 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 bang.
Yeah. It has to be that clear. Yeah. You can't really play too much with that. Yeah,
and because you're running out of time. You know? And I think with the feature, things were allowed to breathe a little bit more, and I think there was some questions that, Shara and I brought to Jon that we were allowed to play with in that arena when it became the feature. Yeah. And I think that was an exciting way to dive, and I think... the character becomes something else, and I think that was exciting to be a part of.
Can we talk about the creative collaboration as well with Shari Sebbins, because that's just like an incredible performance as well. So much difficult things and different things to play. Can you talk about like how you kind of work together as a trio, or how you kind of like help calibrate each other's performances as well?
I mean, we both know what an incredible performer she is, but I was a lot more macro in terms of these two are phenomenal actors, and I'm a big believer in you hire people to do the job, and then you kind of get out of their way and let them do the job.
Yeah.
And so more just like nudging one way or the other, and not necessarily prescribing things, because they know how to do the job.
Yeah. How did those nudges feel?
No, it was good. It was good because I think there was also times where I nudged back, and I think in that tension, something where I don't think I thought it was going to go or Jon thought it was going to go, and it becomes something else. And I think that's the best way that you can work in a collaborative environment. Yeah. And I think when you're working with other actors as well, like Shari, and I think this is the first, we'd known each other for years, 16, 17 years or something like that, but this is the first time that we'd worked one-on-one together in that capacity. And so it was Meyne the actor meeting Shari the actor, and, in a healthy way, having a healthy ego, going like, all right, let's play, let's have fun, you know, and let's do this, And I think some of the scenes in the film are quite heavy and quite emotional, and we were able to go there and then cut, and we're cracking jokes in between takes and taking a piss, and then back to all right, we're back in, and I think that's our friendship. But not only that, we're working with each other as as professionals.
And it's that sense of trust that kind of like helps you both kind of feel that, like feel in the space of that.
Yeah, for sure. And wanting to play with the best players, it's like sport, you're on the field with the best players that you want to do, and they make you better, and it's going like, okay, let's go there, all right, and then we're going to go here, and matching each other, I think that's always, when you're working with the people in the industry that are, at the top of their level, it makes you live your game.
Oh man, that's so beautifully put. I think as well, one thing I really would love to talk to you guys about when we're talking about the Moogai is especially something I think is so purely distilled in horror films is there's this sense that the film, of course, is speaking in metaphor. Like films should speak to metaphor to their audience, but should be, in my opinion, literal for the characters in the film. And I think that the way you kind of craft that, Jon, is so good in that the stakes always feel very real and very in the right place, where you begin, of course, questioning like, oh, is everything real? Are we questioning everything? But then I think the way that kind of supernature or paranormal or spiritual kind of takes over, it all feels very literal for the characters in the film. Can you tell me about like kind of discovering that balance, and then also like, I guess, kind of creating and how you present the Moogai creature at the center of it all as well?
I mean, metaphor, like even I think with horror, and probably sci-fi too, but with horror, even if you didn't intend to put a metaphor in, people are just going to fill that space anyway with whatever they think. But, you know, I had sort of certain points that I was trying to hit, but it took me a good few years to be able to make both journeys work, the literal and the metaphorical.
To find the sync between them.
Yeah, to get them to both match up. And the literal, you're right, you're absolutely right. Like, you know, if the literal doesn't work, then the horror doesn't work. And if the metaphor doesn't work, there's no art.
Yeah.
Like trying to, it was literally just sequencing, and then no, this doesn't work. Sequencing, and then so I was just like plotting and replotting a fair bit actually. But you know, you get to the other end, and then you go, okay, because I think also there's going to be, I don't know if there'll be a heap of like First Nations supernatural, you know, or horrors in the wake of this, but there's going to be some more, and it's kind of the same thing I was trying to do in my career with black comedy in the sketch comedy space, like trying to lay some kind of a pathway for other people to come through and go, oh, well, there is this that we can take from or leave, you know, if it doesn't work.
And I think the actual creature of the Moogai itself is so interesting. Like that, the way that it kind of, I mean, I don't want to get too far into the final moments of the film. I mean, the film's only out today. But like, can you tell me about crafting that creature and kind of imagining that creature up? And like, how do you begin those conversations with your other department heads and stuff?
Well, like the lads at Makeup Effects Group, like they're just as nerdy and sort of fanboys as much as I am, and you know, we kind of I had a few 80s influences that I wanted to bring in, and they were all over it, you know, like, so it was like a real meeting of the minds. But because so much of it, you know, the actor's got gloves on and he's got prosthetics on his face, but so much of it is just body paint.
Yeah.
Like some of that stuff just blows your mind how effective it is.
Yeah.
When he came up on set on that final night, and he sort of came up and he was like right here, you know, and I was talking to someone about something with a serious directing thing.
Yeah.
And then when I turned and saw him, I shit myself. Like it was literally like a haunted house thing. There's something about that face.
And the creature itself of the Moogai is just like such a freaking fascinating creation, terrifying. Can you tell me about like just even creating that creature, developing it, like how you're talking to your heads of department about that?
Well, like when I first started that conversation back and forth with Makeup Effects Group, because they've got a bunch of rooms there, and they've just got all this nerd shit in there, and I was just like
like sketches and like
like figures and posters and actual props from like the baby from the Matrix with all the actual prop.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
the baby from the Matrix is in there.
Yeah, yeah.
The should have put that in the movie.
Oh, they've got so much in there, and it's so inspirational.
Yeah.
And Nick just took me through, and I was like fired up. I had certain ideas from certain films that I wanted to do, but just going through, I was like just geeking out on everything. And even though the Moogai itself, you know, it's just facial prosthetics and hand prosthetics.
He's got those long hands.
Yeah, yeah. He's got those big long fingers, and it's the body paint that sort of, I don't know, it completes it, but it also makes, you know, that those are that's the commonality with us humans.
That's the primal that makes it uncanny, right?
Yeah.
Because if it's just body paint on a body, like that's the things that are wrong really feel incongruous with like how you see the world.
Yeah, it's just human enough to be familiar and just creepy enough to be uncanny valley. Anyway, he came up, the Moogai came up, and I didn't know he was on set, and it was like we had 2 hours to get it done.
Yeah.
And it was like midnight, and I was already tired, but I was talking to somebody, and in a very directory way, and he came up, and when I saw him, I swear to God, man, like my heart stopped because I just didn't expect him, and he said, "Hey, John," and so I just heard, "Hey, John," and then I turned, and it was his face. And the Moogai, like he's looking at you like that, and it's so effective just in the flesh.
Yeah, and especially if there's a normal voice coming out of it, and that's maybe more scary. You know, that's the uncanny part.
Yeah, and he's such a lovely guy.
Yeah.
Paul, like so that even when we were doing some of the movement stuff and some rehearsal stuff.
Yeah, the physical action, the physical creation of the character.
Right?
Yeah, he's a contortionist.
Yeah. You'd have to be.
He gets down and he walks, in this on all
fours.
fours in this crazy way. And I just said to him, that's enough now. Stop. That's good. Stand up. Act like be human again, because it's freaky.
Yeah, and I mean that's the great stuff as a horror audience, like coming together and experiencing like that tension that's relieved through scare. Can you guys talk to me about like the screenings you've had like with audiences? What have the audience responses been to like those freaky moments?
Well, I think what's clever about any horror film, and when you're going into one, the genre, there's expectation.
Yeah.
And so I think it's where Jon plays with that expectation. And some of them, there's a bait and switch there too. So I think that's fun in this film. But I think in the audiences that I've been a part of, you can feel everyone like they're on edge already. And I think naturally you do that when you're going to the cinema to watch a horror film. So I think when in the Moogai, there were certain jumps quite early because the music's letting you know that we're going down this path and the tension's building, and that's Spielberg 101, I suppose. Like you don't know what you're about to see because you're meant to be jumping. Something's coming, but you don't know what it is yet. So I think there's been times where people have like audibly screamed, so that's been a lot of fun.
And there are those moments as well. There are like some scares that are like the supernatural scares or the spiritual scares, or there are the moments where you've got the grounded scares that are things that are like more in the reality of the film. Like I think that's something that really, really works with this film, like beautifully.
Yeah, it's a combination of things like even even trying to play with tropes too that are well known in the horror genre, and just give them a little slight Australian spin or slight, First Nation spin or whatever, and be able to say, these elements, these tropes, because, going back to the Children of the Corn, or The Ring, or these kinds of things, little girls with, white eyes and dresses and just looking at you and stuff. It's off-putting.
Yeah.
It's deeply unsettling. So some of those kinds of things.
Kids singing. I think kids singing.
One of the creepiest things actually is kids singing, yes.
Yeah. And you play with the baby throughout the film and the drama around it.
There's a lot of tension if there's a baby in a film,
Yeah. And so I think that's a natural human thing that we all have, which I think is clever because it grounds the film. It grounds, the stakes are high because, a real baby is... The Moogai is one thing, but a real baby and it being in... I think, but at the same time, I think that's the whole film. And I think Jon's played with that throughout the whole film of, the fear of losing your child. So I think it's a theme that you talk about a lot with this film,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I absolutely love the Moogai. I think everybody should go see it. Do you have any final thoughts before we start talking about your weekly choices here at the store?
On the Moogai?
Yeah, on the Moogai.
I think also, like, people... I don't know how the film comes across because I'm too close to it.
Of course, yeah.
Like how it comes across, but the intention was trying to put a Hollywood polish on something.
Yeah.
And a Hollywood style on something, but it's such a sticky tape and cardboard kind of movie. Like it really is,
like independent,
independent.
Really...
It's a family affair in a lot of ways. Like I've known Meyne, Shari, and Tessa for donkeys. Like it's a real, I don't know. It's just a real honest have a crack kind of film.
Yeah.
I don't know how it comes across, but that's what it actually is.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's that exactly what you're saying. It's like that marriage. We can see it's this personal expression, the way that independent cinema should be, but then it's got like these beautiful scares, this incredible creature that you don't really see in an independent film, like a creature that's executed at that level with that precision, that skill of performance as well. Like, just it all really works beautifully in that way.
Yeah. And that's the love that I think people brought to it. Like, Australia's in this weird place where the industry mightn't be as big as some of these global behemoths, but there's so many skilled people because they've worked on these huge
films.
Where they've really learned to curate a performance or a creature or whatever.
Yeah, the grips go on Pirates of the Caribbean so they can light the shit out of the Moogai. That's it.
Exactly.
Well, thanks so much. Let's talk about your weekly choices.
Weekly.
We're going to get into... Oh, where should we go first? I reckon we're in the zone of horror. You've got one here, John. This is, I think, when we talk about metaphor through horror that feels literal within the film, I don't think there's a better example of this, and a better example that also like hits on everything that is about like those primal feelings of scare, like those primal feelings of things that scare you. You've got the all-timer from Wes Craven, A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
Horror.
Visually, just the fact that you never know when you're in a dream.
Yes.
And it just keeps slipping in and out, and it creates this, I don't know, it creates this in-between space that gives you the feeling of insomnia.
Yes.
That the character is feeling, that all the characters are feeling. That poster was a big inspiration for the Moogai as well.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. And then I always just thought, Freddy Krueger, I thought it was a great name, but I also thought it was like, because character names, you're always trying to come up with something interesting. But I also thought, I don't know, just this thing with these claws.
Yeah.
And he scrapes them along things and stuff. It's just really sort of spine tingling.
Man, it really is. It's like one of those films that's stuck with him our whole life. And I think it's exactly that thing you say, because it's like it captures this very specific tone and specific feeling that uses visual storytelling to get you there, uses surrealism to access something deep, like which is the feeling of like, well, I don't know what happens when my eyes are closed. I don't know what happens when I'm asleep. And everyone has that feeling of going, I don't know when a dream is real, when you're in it, or when it is reality, or when it is just, dream, my brain playing tricks on me and stuff. I think that Wes Craven just absolutely lands that feeling of that space. And it's something that is quite common in horror, or at least communicating to people through horror, is that idea of like the nighttime is a place between places. And I think the Moogai is like something that captures that same feeling as well, where once nighttime comes up, so do other realms. It's almost like tessellates with other places. Is that also an area of influence for you from Nightmare on Elm Street?
Yeah, like the surrealism, the artistic way that all that stuff's presented is a big influence too. Like in terms of, the flames around the trees.
Yeah.
And I don't know if did you see the snake in the sky?
Yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of all of that sort of stuff, I don't know, you feel like you've entered a surreal world in Nightmare on Elm Street. And that stuff's definitely an inspiration.
But you didn't put Meyne in like a cropped top the way Johnny Depp does.
I don't think you want to see me. Johnny Depp's a handsome dude. I am not. Well, at least at that time he was.
Well, I also love to say, like, what is your favorite kill in A Nightmare on Elm Street? You can pick any of the films. It doesn't have to be the first Nightmare on Elm Street. Personally, I'm a big fan of the guy getting turned into a meatball and pizza and then gobbled up in, I think, Nightmare 4.
I don't know if I've got necessarily a favorite kill, but the thing that spun me out when I watched it was when Heather Langenkamp is driving a truck and she's trying to drive it. I think it's 3.
Yeah,
she's driving it, Dream Warrior.
Yeah.
And she's driving it towards him, and then the truck just folds around him.
Yeah.
Watching it, it was just it was just unexpected.
Yeah.
Like, and it was going back to what you were talking about, practical effects. It was something that just caught me off guard.
Yeah.
Like that was probably my favorite moment in the whole series.
Do you remember seeing Freddy Krueger for the first time?
Yes, I think I was staying at my auntie's place in Tabula Mission, and all the other kids had gone out to do something, and I stayed in to watch this, and I can just remember him cutting his own fingers off. And at the time, I thought I could go for a couple of sausages right now, because they just sort of, and I don't know. But
Have you ever looked at them the same way? Sausages all fingers.
not necessarily, but it was like the fat sausages, not the skinny ones. You know,
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, I'm a bit hungry here. But I mean, I was a kid, so I don't know. You're always hungry.
Well, I mean, for you, have you ever seen Nightmare on Elm Street? Has it been one of those ones
have.
for you?
Yeah, no, I think at this point I grew up in the 90s, so it was already built up, and you already know about something before you know you've seen it, and so like Chucky or like you know, Jason or you know, Michael Myers. Like, I think that those films are in that time. It's already in the social consciousness that you already know what they are before you come in. And everyone's your cousins are freaking you out before you even watch the fucking movie. You know what I mean? And so then when you're there, you're like everything. You're on edge the whole entire time. But I think it's because those films were so effective that they become part of
part of the fabric, part of things that scare you. You know? He's one of the stock villains that scares people for the rest of their lives.
He looks like a melted ball sack, you know.
Yeah.
What I mean?
he certainly does. All right, we're going to talk about your weekly pick as well, Meyne. You have picked out from the Coen Brothers, No Country for Old Men.
Horror.
I think I want to change my answer now that
Oh my God.
now that you
just flop that back on the shelf?
But I think because you're talking about horror and you're talking about like, and we're here to talk about the Moogaai. And I don't think like No Country. I love that film, and I when it was it's a film that you like, and I was thinking of something. Yeah. But now halfway through this conversation, I think what always scares me, because I love sci-fi, and I think the sci-fi films that have also terrified me, and I think that's when it's effective. And I think the first time I watched 2001, Space Odyssey, that freaked me out more than any horror film that I'd ever seen.
Sci-fi.
Because you're grappling with like what it is to exist completely.
Yeah, and I think there's also something in, I know that this is a long way away from me in this moment, but what a good sci-fi does is it freaks you out in that moment, because it makes you think that you are in that is a possibility. Or it's like when you're a kid and you get told by the teacher that the sun is going to blow up in 5 million years. That still freaks you out as a kid. Yeah. You know what I mean? You go, no, dude, you're going to be dead. You're not going to be around at that point. Yeah. But I think there's something in that fear that it taps into, that film just freaked me out from start to finish. And it's tension, it's the pacing, it's everything about that movie just freaks me out.
And talk about creating fears with a baby in the Moogaai. I mean, 2001 Space Odyssey, the biggest baby that's ever been on film. It's the size of a freaking planet or something.
And I just think there's something about paranoia. And I think... I think there's something in there. But if you want to go back to No Country, obviously,
both.
You know,
I'll chuck an extra in for you, man.
Harvey about him. That haircut's freaky enough.
Yeah. Can you tell me about that performance? Like, because I think it's one of the greatest performances ever.
I think it's definitely one of the greatest villain performances ever. I think he's so unsettling, and it's just the way he gazes at the other actors. And it's he just holds it the whole entire time, and you know he's a threat. And it's based in him just flipping a coin and holding, because you know what's going to happen, you know. It
doesn't matter what that coin says. It doesn't matter. Yeah. But also, speaking about uncanny, that haircut, that makes him look not normal, you know. It's like, there's something wrong with this guy.
And I felt for him.
It's those curtain bangs.
Well, I felt for him too, because he had to have that haircut like all the time. Like, I think when you're an actor and someone's going to do something about your appearance, it's like you're going to do that for the next 3-4 months. So I feel for him for that haircut alone.
Staff pick.
Well, I think we're at that point where I have to give you guys a staff pick recommendation based on your taste, based on your film and everything like that. And I kind of like got really thinking, because I really want to give a horror film or a genre picture that has like a strong First Nations perspective as well. And this movie kind of came to mind straight away, that basically as soon as you said No Country for Old Men, as soon as you said Nightmare on Elm Street, there's this one that became so clear to me. It's a Canadian film from 1991 called Clear Cut.
Horror.
Have you seen Clear Cut?
I
Have
don't
you
think
heard
so.
of it?
No.
It's kind of been rare because it's like it was a big flop on release because it's like a very angry, like searing film. It's directed by a Polish immigrant filmmaker called Richard Bugacki, who was infamous in Poland because he made this film called Interrogation. It enraged Poland's communist regime. He had to flee to Canada. And then he makes this film called Clear Cut, which is about a white lawyer who arrives in a remote area in northern Ontario to defend Indigenous activists who are blocking a logging company's clear cut of old growth on their land. He's a pacifist by nature and perceiving himself as a sympathetic to Indigenous concern, he finds his values are shaken when he's paired with an angry rogue Indigenous activist named Arthur, played by the all-time great Graham Greene, who insists on kidnapping the head of the logging company to take him deep into the forest where he hopes to teach him the price of the destruction. So it stars Graham Greene, who's from like Oscar nominated for Dance with Wolves and stuff, just like incredible actor, and he's got this very searing, like angry, ferocious performance that kind of plays in the spirituality of it as well. But there's like this huge kidnapping plot in there, so there's a little bit of that crime genre from No Country for Old Men coming in too. And Graham Greene has always said this is his favorite film of his career. Like this is his favorite film of his career. It's kind of come back because in America, Severin Films have done this new restoration and put it back out there. So there's a lot of like conversations around this film now, and it's just really this fascinating exploration of like cinematic rage, the complexities and pitfalls, and I'd say like the ineptitude of pacifism as well, and like how pacifism does not get you all the way. And it's just one of those great examples of like using genre films to communicate to people. And there's so much in there. There's a lot of that like kind of visual surrealism, like a little bit of that spiritual surrealism that you do see in A Nightmare on Elm Street as well. But Clear Cut, I think you guys will both freaking froth this movie. And also, anyone viewing in and listening in, Clear Cut, you got to track it down. Like, it's the sickest film to try something different this horror season.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, thanks for the recommendation. That sounds good.
I'll watch that.
Yeah.
Oh, my pleasure, my pleasure.
Like after the pitch, yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm a great pitchman. I'm a great pitchman. Let it be known, I'm a great pitchman. But all you know, it was all you guys. You guys brought the taste together. I just had to distill it down for you and pass it back.
Nice.
Yeah.
It'd be awesome if I just made this movie up. I go, well, you know, I picked something, I chose it together, throwing your things. I invented one film just for you guys, and let's freaking make it.
No, it'd have been worse if you made it up and then we said we've seen it.
Oh yeah, like call you guys out. Told you to cancel you guys on this show. But thank you so much, guys. The Moogai's in cinemas now. I reckon everyone should go see it. Absolute ball, pleasure, joy hanging out with you guys today, talking about flicks.
Thanks, man.
Cheers,
My
mate.
pleasure.
Thank you.
The last video store.
Thank you for checking out The Last Video Store with me, your host, Alexi Toliopoulos. Please subscribe, follow, share the podcast amongst your friends as well. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, TikTok, Instagram, Last Video Store Batuta. So check us out and share us in all of those places. And if you want your own bespoke customized recommendation from me, you can submit an online order at any of those places, in a comment, in a 5-star review, with your weeklies and your new release pick, and I will come to you like I did at the top of this episode and give you a recommendation based on your taste. So thank you very much. Love you, love movies.